the whole African-centered curriculum seems to work. And we also had the discussion also talking about HBCU versus the white university. A lot of my HBCU friends who came out, they can work in the middle of anywhere and still be self-aware and self-grounded of who they are. So when they go working around predominantly white people in corporate America, they have no problem. They still will wear their locks or whatever they got going on and still produce and do what they need to do, but they know who they are. And a lot of that curriculum, I think, is a great solution.
Excellent, brother. You hit a lot of points, right? But I have to go back to what Brother Antoine said, because he hit the essence of what he said. It's always been what an aristocrat upper echelon had to teach, withheld the knowledge from the masses. It go back pretty far, but it ain't always been like that. I'm a black African historical major. You know what I'm saying? And I researched history back 4.5 million years, right? Okay, so this is what happened in a nutshell, right? Real briefly. Cush, which is Ethiopia, which is the parent of Egypt, you know what I'm saying, used to teach all of its citizens the true knowledge of God and everything. They didn't withheld anything. They had a civil war, Upper and Lower Egypt, you know what I'm saying, which is really what they call Egypt now. That's Upper Egypt. It was part of Ethiopia, okay? They had a civil war where the high priest said, no, we're not going to teach all the citizens. All the citizens from birth used to know this knowledge, you know what I'm saying? And it started off as 77 laws. It was broke to 42 laws called the Negative Confession. Some of you might know what I'm talking about. Then it got broke to 10 laws called the 10 Commandments. Then somebody came, you know what I'm talking about, Yahshua, and broke them down to 2. These laws govern these civilizations for like hundreds of thousands of years. These simple 2 laws: love the Lord thy God with all your heart, and love your brother and sister as you would yourself. It says that once you live under those simple 2 laws, you can have a civilization last for eons. It's that simple. And you got to teach the people who they are, knowledge itself, and you can't hide it. But the point of it is, my point is, it wasn't always like that. And once you have lost something, you have to go back and retrieve. That's why I firmly emphasize study what works. Study the blueprint of what did work. How do we have such great civilizations? Ain't y'all ever asked that question? They was based on some knowledge. Knowledge itself, and they live by these laws. That's what I said. How did they do this? He started, the Holy Spirit started revealing this is what they did. It's going to go back to that so-called kingdom of God or paradise on earth, whatever you call it. It's going to be these laws that govern us, and we're going to have to teach all our citizens that. When they start holding, you get the Masonic schools and all that want to covenant knowledge. You can't do that. You got to give it. That's why Jesus tell you in the book that you can't sell the knowledge. You got to give it to everybody. That's what happened. It wasn't always like that. It's going to be again.
I was going to go back to what Mrs. Barrett said, when she was saying how parents really play a big part in enforcement education once a child in school. Because Mommy had an aunt that was a teacher, and Mom was big on education. She had to learn the A's and the Dr. Seuss books, and she would read to me. So after I would leave school, it was always reinforced, you know, using correct grammar, using the learning tools. And I think that was a big reason why a lot of people in my generation are doing so well in college. But I don't feel like the generation after us really has a chance to really receive all that, because they're dealing with all the outside environments, like the families being torn apart or the gang infestation in the communities. They're not really getting I feel like the second education. Because your first teacher is your family. They're your first teacher. Because those are the ones who like give you the basic skills of socializing, communicating properly. They're the ones to teach you your manners. And I feel like a lot of the young kids are missing that because the families are torn apart so early in the age.
Yeah, I wanted to say something about that too. About the second, you get the second teaching when you came home. I believe Dr. Delaney was saying that. So I'm gonna present a question. Now, I said earlier about the re-education, so I know that's gonna be hard to get a 24 or 5-year-old to buckle down and get back to knowledge and then try and teach it to their kids. How will we influence these parents? And actually, what generation, what are you talking about? You're not talking about the baby boomers or the 30-year-old people, right? You're talking about like 20s and teenage
No, I'm
mothers?
talking about 30s too.
I'm teaching, so I'm teaching.
I'm talking about whoever have children in the public school system, elementary and high school now.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if we can get those, I just think we need to crowd the classrooms, because they're already saying they're crowded, right? So either we're gonna do one or two things, we either gonna crowd it all the way, or we just gonna pull it all the way out. That's how I feel, that's just my personal opinion. Y'all don't have to tell nobody else, I was being recorded though, but I can stand back behind it. Go ahead, Brother Antoine.
One thing I believe about the Chicago public school systems is they're not teaching our kids what our kids can learn. When my niece was in kindergarten, I knew she was smart, so I just decided to see what I could get her to hold on to. And within 1 hour, she was multiplying. She was doing multiplication in kindergarten. My mom came in, what you got this baby doing? Oh, I'm teaching her how to multiply. Oh, well, she goes to school. She'll get one day. The teachers will teach it to her, because we're programmed to that happen in school.
At school, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But when I saw that she could grasp doing multiplication in kindergarten, it made me wonder how come they wasn't teaching multiplication in kindergarten. And then it just made me wonder how much could a child retain and know.
Right.
And what I found out is that a child can learn way earlier than at 5 years old. And they can learn way more than what they're teaching these kids at school. It's almost like if you take a professor, give him amnesia, and then teach them how to add, and that's it, just stop there.
Right.
And don't let them reach their full potential. Because what happens is, as a child gets older, the pathways that get built up in their brain to learn start to go away. And they know that.
and then they become incapable, or it becomes a lot harder to get those open back up and to start to learn.
I used to have parents that used to ask me, this is family. How is it you can teach kindergarten all the things? I said, let me explain something to you. If they watch TV on the computer, if they can learn a rap,
That's the same thing I said.
they learn what I'm going to teach them. That's what I'm simplifying to make sure that children love money. My kindergartners love money, period. So to teach multiplication, I would teach them with pennies. 2 times 4, 2 times 3. Nickels for 5. We did the 2s, 5, and 10 because they were the easiest. I would give them nickels and have them keep 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. And dimes 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Because I told them, when we would go on trips, I would have the parents doing something that I hadn't realized, but I found out very quickly. I would break the kids down in groups, and the parents, my parents would send money for their children to buy their souvenirs. I had parents taking the money that I would give them to get souvenirs for the parents who sent it for their children, buying their kids something with that money. So I would always find out what child didn't have any money for the trip, to buy a souvenir, and I would make sure they were in my group. And then I would have one parent to really monitor the other parent so that they wouldn't take the money that the parents had sent for their individual child and spend it on their kid. Because I didn't appreciate that. I always took care of my own kids. Even when I started out as a first-year teacher, I didn't know up and down. It's just like a new parent. You don't know how to raise a child, but you will learn. If you want to learn how to teach children, watch them. They will teach you to teach them. A lot of things my children were doing in the family. I can help my children to learn from what that person just did. A lot of things that I would take and utilize it in the classroom because they were teaching me, the kids were teaching me to teach them better.
It's a beautiful thing the sister just shared. You can feel that sincerity that she's communicating. You know what I mean? The love of teaching. You know what I mean? And I think that that's the type of passion that's been lost in the school system. People don't love to teach. You know what I mean? And they really disheartened with the whole profession. Oh, I shouldn't have never did this. I should have went to school for something else. When you got that type of regrets, how can you come in enthusiastic? How do you feel motivated to get to work every day? You know what I mean? You dread the trip. You know what I mean? Oh man, you know what I mean? Look how they disrespected you. You know what I mean? So it's really a travesty, I feel, that the system has really went in the direction that it's went. And I think it needs to be corrected, it needs to be steered back on the right path. And let me just add this here, and that is this, well, today, scientists are saying that the average person only uses 10% of their brain. Now that's deep. If we're only using 10% of our brain, somebody that might be using 11 or 12% is coined as a genius among us. Let's think if we can tap back into using 25%. And that goes back to what Brother Antoine said about, the little girl, learning multiplications early. She's going to be ahead of the game. And if we can get them ahead of the game, now you got the child, and this has been documented also about some grammar school children that into college. They skipped high school, went on the move. So how is that? Can't we duplicate that? W.E.B. Du Bois had a theory about the talented 10 among us. Okay, and that's a deep thing y'all can look into if you study W.E.B. Du Bois. And he was talking about the 10%, the talented 10th among us have an obligation to not forget the other 90%. Now I'm not going with his stats necessarily to say that it's only 10% of us talented. But what I'm saying is those among us to whom much is given, much is expected and required. That's what I'm
Absolutely. Go ahead. Come on, you've been waiting.
Well, I just wanted to go off what you had said about the dynamics of family. You have young parents, and they're wanting to go to the clubs and do all of that instead of going to a parent-teacher conference. Then you have some that do go, they want to jump on the teacher because they're telling them the truth about their child. So it's like, that's why we need to parent our child, help them read those books, do it. It's right there, they're right there, you should be right there with them. I think, you showing them that, yeah, I can do this too. I might not understand it because a lot of this new homework is something else. But at least the kids see, okay, my mom putting forth the effort, my dad's helping me. So I think that's all part of it too.
Go ahead.
I'm wondering I think sometimes when I hear us talk about the field of education, even like with the strike and Karen Lewis and things like that, I'm quite bothered by this narrative that's created that makes it seem like teachers don't make a lot of money, because teachers are paid very well. Teachers are paid well. They're not, they're paid well. When you look at teachers compared, most people say, oh no, but teachers I think start at what, 40?
71.
No, not start.
I mean, they get up to.
They get up to 71. And in fact, and so I'm wondering to what, so when we say like teachers, they don't make enough to live, we live over in the Beverly Morgan Park area, and it's about 4 teachers on our block. The teachers make decent money. And so I'm wondering to what extent do we, because we say them, the system, but to what extent, if any, do you hold the teachers accountable, or yourselves and the teachers? Because one lesson, because sometimes, like in my doctoral program, I was surprised at the administrators who were in the program who were like, well, you can't help them all, you learn, and they just had a nonchalant attitude, and they getting paid $100,000. It was so disturbing to me, and they think like, well, and they bad, they coming there, and I'm thinking, well, you should leave if you're not effective there. You're making $100,000. So I'm wondering, to what extent do you hold teachers accountable, if any? And then, even if you're a teacher, what about yourself? How do you check yourself and keep yourself honest and true to this profession?
Before you answer, that's going to be the last one on the E. Go ahead, take it down with it.
She asked, who are you addressing it to?
Oh, okay. When I look in my students' eyes every day, I can't do anything but be an honest person because I have to be true to them. I would like to share this with you. I have wanted to be a teacher since I was 5 years old. That's as far as I can recollect. Since I was 5 years old, I used to teach people. So when other little girls were out making mud pies and jumping double dutch and single and playing hopscotch, my dolls were my students until my parents had my siblings. And then I had a real life when they grew up and got older. That little girl right there, Brianna Taylor, she was my student. My oldest niece was my student. They were my little guinea pigs. I used everything that I was learning at Chicago State University back in the day when I told you it was Chicago Teachers College on student until I graduated, and I used everything that I was learning on them, they turned out pretty good. My old niece is great. My sister is very bright. That's why I had that kid right there, because she took so much time with her two children, my nephews and my niece. So everything I learned, I taught children, and I worked in the community that I was teaching kids. I would go over and teach one of my friends who also attended Chicago State. Her son was having a difficult time with Spanish. And she said, Ann, well, my whole name is Olga Ann Bailey. My best friends call me Ann. I was raised as Ann. When I got ready to go to school, my mother said, don't forget Olga. They're going to call you Olga. They're not going to say Ann. It's Olga. It's Olga Ann B. I married a baby. Olga Ann B. And because all I would answer to was Ann. I forgot my name was Olga. my brother used to tease people and say, how many black ladies that you know whose name is Olga? There were only 2 Olgas in my high school. There was another girl, she was black. But I've always wanted to be a teacher. And my mother, I used to call her the pusher mom, because whatever we said we wanted to be, she said, we don't have to push. And she was the pusher mom. And anything that we said we wanted to be, my siblings, that's what we turned out to be. I love her. I give her that credit. And I said there are 3 kinds of teachers. There's a born teacher. I was a born teacher. There are teachers who learn how to teach well, and there are teachers who shouldn't teach at all.
Right.
Which one are you? Which one are you?
That's right.
I'm a born teacher.
What the sister said, a teacher is a profession or a calling, just like a preacher, just like a nurse, just like a doctor. You really have to be called to, because if you don't, again, love the child that you're teaching, I feel some kind of love and passion for your job, you're not going to be a good teacher. But also, you got to know just who these pupils are before you. See, do we really know who we are? You see what I'm saying? Now, I don't want to spook anybody, and that's why I tell you go back to John chapter 10, verse 34. We're gods and goddesses, and the little children are little gods and goddesses. See, when you coming on that premise right there, you can't never have compassion for them. You know what I'm saying? These geniuses. It's like you're talking about this needs learning. I started off talking about how we was in ancient times, the blueprint go back when, to learn to be a calculus master at 10 was nothing. We're going to get back to that, because as it was in the beginning, so it shall be in the ending. You know what I'm saying? And they dumbed us down. They got our standards so way down from what we really are. You know what I'm saying? She could be a little professor right now. Seriously, if we believe that and bring it up out of them, they little geniuses that we should love with passion and understand. Even the big ones, you know what I'm saying? They don't know. When I talk to young brothers on the corner and tell them who they really are, man, it clicks in. Once you give them that knowledge of self, like the brother right here, the social worker was saying, when you get that coach, see, we missing that coach. If you take a plant and put him out the wrong culture, you take a tropical plant and put him in the desert, it's going to wither.
Right.
Put him in his right culture and teach him who he really is, and they're going to thrive. That's why these black cultural institutions thrive. The teaching is in the sterile school is dead. You know, oh man, I don't want to do that. Put them somewhere where they teach them, man, Carter G. Woodson and Lewis Latimer and all of that. What? They studying life. We the ones that invented the telephone. That Thomas Edison stole all the inventions. Once you tell them all that, that's gonna click. It did the same thing to me. A light bulb exploded. Boom, or atom cracked. We the inventors of the atom. Our man, atom. You know what I'm saying? Come on, man. We knew that in ancient times. They just rediscovering these things. So, we got to teach them who they are, and that's it.
Brother Sebastian.
I think it's been a real wholesome night. You know what I mean? I feel. And I feel that we need to, again, I want to reiterate, springboard this into something, even bigger. I think this is a platform for us to do that. And it's just, I'm motivated, to come in communication with people who care. Because what's happening now, people don't even care. You know what I mean? I feel motivated sitting next to the sister here, Sister Bailey, because what happens is you see that passion. And I remember being in grammar school and a teacher said, well, if you don't learn, I'm still going to get paid. I've heard that.
Yeah.
And that was back in the 80s, you know what I mean? And then just say, hey, listen, y'all do what y'all want to do. I'm going to get paid anyway. And to tell a child or something like that fits the category of what he said, they shouldn't be teaching, because that's damning. you know, to a young man. I'm here telling a child, you know, they don't never be nothing. You know what I mean? See, we take those things, we receptive to those things like a sponge, especially in our early developmental years. You know what I mean? We most receptive then that was expounded upon tonight. You know what I mean? And they want to put that light out. They want to extinguish that light and that motivation. And parables hold a great significance in teaching. I don't, you know, a lot of people study history and they understand the significance of parables. You know, sometimes Jonah being in the belly of the whale could be perceived literally or, you know, allegorically. You know what I mean? It could be a parable. You know what I mean? It could apply to your situation now. You could be in prison within your job, in prison within yourself. You know what I mean? And you crying out to the Lord to be spit out on dry land, unharmed. So, you know, the test of Job, we could be facing them daily. So there's so many different things that we study historically. So I'm going to speak on an analogy, a parable. And you had 4 brothers. You had everybody, anybody, somebody, and nobody. And there was something that needed to be done. So, you know what I mean? Everybody looked at anybody. You know, come on, let's go, anybody. You going to take care of this? Anybody, he looked over at somebody. You know? Somebody looked back at everybody. Everybody looked at anybody. You know what happened? Nobody did. So, you know, I feel like we got to take that first step. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So I think we need to start stepping. We need to start moving. That's what's going to save our baby.
I guess the elected board would be, you know how the police, I noticed when the police, when they re-upping on new officers, they always get the young one that can run real good and strong. Maybe that could be done inside the CPS as far as the teachers, getting more vigorous teachers. And I ain't saying push the old ones out, but maybe re-educate or reinvigorate them. How about, is that a word?
It is now.
Reinvigorate them. Okay, this is gonna conclude no more questions? Yeah, no more questions. Gonna conclude you have a comment. We gotta let you have a comment.
Oh, well, first of all, I want to thank the panel and, of course, my classmates. We want to thank you all for listening to us. Thank you. There's one thing that I would really like to encourage us all to do is not to limit anyone's learning ability, whether they be a little child or an 80-year-old woman.
Right.
Because one of the things that we fail sometimes to realize is that our culture is built on all of these stages and all of these levels. And any level that's missing, you're still going to have a gap. So, you know, this whole thing about, you know, 30-year-olds can't go back and learn, or this group can't go back and learn. Let's not put any limitations. Let's figure out how we can tap into those groups and how we can pull them in, because we need them. We need every level. And some of us in here are students returning to school, 50, 60, 70-year-old, and we competing with y'all young people. So I think we bad. So, I'm just saying that to say, and I'm just trying to make light of it, but I'm saying that to say that we have every level, you know, and some of us may not be out of the workforce anymore, but we're going to contribute in some way. We are the ones that's probably going to have to not sit on the bus because we don't have no job and we don't have to worry about not getting paid.
Right.
You know, so let's not limit ourselves. Let's look at everyone as a possible stop.
True that.
Okay.
Let's not let any disparities
Right.
limit us.
I want to say, my age group get a lot of backlash.
What age group is that?
I'm 24.
Okay, cool. I think you tell me.
We get a lot of backlash, you know, because my generation is in disarray. But for the most part, we're the first generation coming off the crack. Like my uncles and all them were crackers. So we had a late start. But we trying, a lot of my friends are back in school.
Yes.
A lot of my friends got degrees. I feel like I'm behind because I was coming out a degree at 21. But it's come along slowly but surely, because we have a lot of influence in the music industry, all these pictures we see, and I literally have to turn the TV off because it influences you. You see people in jail and they're glorifying the jail system in jail. Like that's what you're supposed to do. So we're coming around, but slowly but surely, and people like you all who tell us, I listen to you. I listen to you. And it's like, we're trying, we're gonna get there, but we're not all lost. Okay, someone was like,
We need you. We need you. We need you for I just want to thank this lovely panel. That will conclude our forum for the evening. God bless you.
I know you all want to go, you're tired, you want to go home. But, two things I want to say. I brought all those things back there for you all to partake of. So if there's any popcorn, any candy, any chips, please take them off. And they're little brown bags that you can slap something in and take with you. But, don't move. Don't move. I want to share this with you because next year I won't be teaching anymore. Hopefully I'll be teaching on a higher plane. 64, I was born August 10th, 1950. I'm 64, I'll be 65. Next August 10th, if I live to see it.
You will.
But hopefully the plane that I'll be teaching on will be a higher plane because in my teaching career, I found out how much children love music and commercials and rap, and I always included that in my teaching. Everything that I did, especially with teaching and reading, phonics, and everything, I made songs up with poems and rhymes to teach them. I have met children that I taught many moons ago, and they said, when it was Miss Lee. Miss Lee, I remember when you taught me how to read, you taught me phonics, and you taught me different songs. And Mrs. Bailey, I remember when you, that's good. And they all turned out to be wonderful. I don't know anybody that's not doing well now. But I have two songs. This is short and quick. One is called, whenever you hear my songs, when I make it, hopefully sometime next year, because this is like it's going to happen now. One is called, I'll Watch You Like a Hawk. I need you all to help me. I'm going to do a second one too, but it's going to be so fast. You'll say, oh, that was anything. It's called I'll Watch You Like a Hawk. I don't know if you all, some of you are very young, so you might not know who Peter Falk is, but I used to watch Peter Falk. Columbo. A show called Columbo. Police Investigating. And it goes like this. And you all can help me, and I'll tell you what type of music I want to do before we go get Mr. Boyd. It's called I'll Watch You Like a Hawk. Repeat after me. Let me do it, then you do it. Your attitude is starting to change. Come on. Your attitude is starting to change. And now you're acting very strange. And now you're acting very strange. I don't really want to squawk. I don't really want to squawk. But I watch you like a hawk. But I watch you like a hawk. Now your cell phone, computer, too. Will all fell off on you. I don't play and I don't stop. But I watch you like a hawk. You know we really need to talk. Sit down, hold hands, and take a walk. If I become a Peter Falk, then I'll watch you like a hawk. I know some things that we can do. Just talk to me, I'll talk to you. Just talk to me, I'll talk to you. If not, I'm going to squawk. If not, I'm really going to squawk. And I'll watch you like a hawk. And I'll watch you like a hawk. Yes, I'll watch you like a hawk. One thing, this is a Shorty McGraw. This is a Shorty McGraw. And believe me, when I start singing, I won't read it. I don't know the words. Trust me. Okay, the name of this one is, I'm trying to see if it's all here. Okay. I've been writing songs, gospel songs, rock and roll, children motivation songs, 1978.
Okay.
I have
Miss Atkins
all
wanted to say
100
this
songs.
about herself.
Okay, I hope this is all here. I just keep writing it over. It's called, hold on just a minute. I know you're gonna like this, so I have to turn to the right one. Because like I told you, I kept writing it over and over again, so I got it right. Hold on just a minute, I know you all wanna go. It's called, all the time, all the time. I know some twins named Lyric and Music. Lyric's the girl, Music's the guy. They have a phrase that'll make you laugh inside. They say, I'm gonna do the girl part, and all the ladies you say it with me, and when guy, you say it in before. The phrase they use is, all the time, all the time. I asked newlywed Lyric, is your life now divine? And she said, all the time. All the time. I asked Music, are your fave steaks, porterhouse, T-bone, and prime? And he said, all the time. All the time. I asked Lyric, do you like your made with lemon and lime? And she said, all the time. All the time. I asked Music, do you like to see a performing mime? And he said, all the time. All the time. I asked, are your favorite twin friends rhythm and rhyme? And they said, all the time.